It was a quiet Thursday night in Arlington. Too quiet, the kind that makes the silence feel heavy, like the air's waiting for something to happen. My wife, Claire, was in the kitchen finishing up the dishes, humming softly to the tune of an old Sinatra song. I was on the couch, half watching the late news, half thinking about the contractor who still hadn't fixed our gate. Then came the knock. Not a polite tap tap tap. A knock, heavy, rhythmic, practiced. The kind of knock that belongs to someone used to authority. Claire froze mid-hum. I muted the TV and glanced at her. She frowned, wiped her hands, and mouthed, "Who could that be?" I shrugged, already uneasy. When I opened the door, two men stood on our porch. They wore dark uniforms, navy blue, with shiny badges on their chests that read HOA Compliance Division. Their belts carried radios, tasers, and holsters that looked just empty enough to raise questions. "Evening," said the taller one, his voice clipped. "We're responding to a violation report for property 214 Maple Run, this address." "That's us," I said cautiously. "What kind of violation?" The shorter man flipped open a small binder. "Unauthorized modifications to exterior security systems. You've installed surveillance equipment without HOA approval." I blinked. "We have a Ring doorbell." He didn't smile. "And 2 high-range perimeter cameras, plus an encrypted wireless hub. Those aren't standard consumer installs." Claire appeared behind me, drying her hands. "That's ridiculous. Those were cleared by the board last year." "I have the emails." The taller man's eyes flicked to her, a flash of recognition that made my stomach twist. "Ma'am," he said, tone softening just enough to sound false, "we're going to need you to come with us for verification." Claire frowned. "Come with you? For a doorbell?" "This isn't about the doorbell," he said. That was the moment I realized something was off. Deeply off. "Let's see your IDs," I said. The shorter man handed me a laminated card. It looked official, until I noticed the font too bold, too modern. "And the state seal? Crooked." I raised an eyebrow. "This is fake." The man's hand twitched toward his holster. "Sir," he said flatly, "please step aside." Before I could answer, Claire's hand slipped into mine. "Calm. Steady." Her voice dropped to a whisper only I could hear. "Don't argue. Just trust me." She stepped past me and into the porch light, ice hard as steel. "You two aren't with the HOA," she said. "You're not even cops." The taller one smiled, a cold, rehearsed smirk. "Lady, you don't want to make this difficult." "I've handled worse," she said. Then, with a motion so subtle I almost missed it, she tapped her left wrist twice. The taller man took a step forward. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to insist." And then everything changed. A faint, high-pitched chirp came from somewhere in the house. The porch light flickered once, then turned blood red. The air filled with a low hum, and my phone buzzed in my pocket, a message from an unknown number, code Sigma confirmed. "Stand clear." The two men froze mid-step. A voice crackled over their radios, not the HOA's, not police. Cold, mechanical, and unfamiliar. "Signal intercept detected. Abort mission." Abort. "They're active." The shorter man's face drained of color. "There, what the hell is she?" Claire's eyes narrowed. "You shouldn't have come here." Before I could blink, motion lights ignited along our driveway, painting everything in harsh white. 3 black SUVs screeched around the corner, tires spitting gravel. The fake cops turned to run. Too late. From the SUVs, a team of armed men in tactical gear emerged, moving with frightening precision. No yelling, no theatrics, just silent, disciplined efficiency. Within seconds, the two imposters were on their knees, hands behind their heads. I stood frozen, heart hammering, as one of the new arrivals, a clean-cut man with a scar under his eye, approached Claire and nodded. "Ma'am," he said in a voice that radiated quiet authority. "We've got it contained." She nodded back. "Good work, Agent Monroe." "Agent?" I turned to her, searching her face. Claire, what the hell is going on? She exhaled, shoulders relaxing just a little. I was going to tell you eventually, she said softly. But it seems the past caught up first. I looked at the two fake cops being dragged away in zip ties, their faces pale with something that looked an awful lot like fear. Who are they? I asked. Claire looked at me, and in her eyes, I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Not fear. Not guilt. Training. Not HOA, she said quietly. And not human resources consultants either. The flashing red lights from the SUVs turned our quiet cul-de-sac into a war zone. Neighbors peeked through blinds, porch lights flicked on, one by one, like a row of watching eyes. Claire stood at the edge of the porch, arms crossed, her expression carved from stone. The two fake cops knelt on the grass, cuffed and silent, their fake badges glinting under the tactical lights. I tried to process it all, the coded alerts, the SUVs, the agents with military posture, and the fact that my wife seemed to be in charge of them. Claire, I said finally, you want to tell me why there's a small army outside our house? She didn't look at me. Inside. Now. Her tone wasn't angry, it was controlled, like she'd flipped a switch from suburban wife to field operative. I followed her in, shutting the door behind us. Through the front window, I watched as the men in tactical black began sweeping the yard, scanning the perimeter with handheld devices that blinked faint green. Claire went straight to the kitchen counter, opened the drawer that used to hold receipts and coupons, and pulled out a matte black satellite phone. Claire, I said slowly, what the hell is that? She didn't answer. She just pressed a button and said, Control, this is Delta 7. Package secure. 2 hostiles detained. A man's voice replied almost instantly. Copy, Delta 7. Good to have you back online. Field command requests you at Site Echo immediately. Negative, she said. I'm not leaving him. The voice hesitated. Acknowledged. Stand by for confirmation. The line went dead. I stared at her, feeling like I'd stepped into someone else's life. Delta 7? Site Echo? Claire, who are you? She met my eyes. For a long second, the woman I knew, the one who spent Saturdays gardening and couldn't resist rescuing stray cats, flickered beneath the surface. Then she sighed. My name is Claire Hastings, she said. But before that, before you, I was Agent Claire Ward, Counterintelligence, CIA Special Activities Division. My knees almost gave out. You're kidding. She shook her head. I wish I were. I sat down hard on a chair, rubbing my face. So, those guys weren't with the HOA. Her lips twitched, just barely. Not unless the HOA's running black market abductions now. Then who were they? She took a breath. Rogue contractors. Ex-intelligence. The kind that sell their loyalties to whoever pays more. Years ago, I dismantled a ring smuggling encrypted tech to foreign buyers. Their leader escaped. Tonight, he sent them here. Here? Why now? She hesitated, glancing toward the dark window. Because they finally figured out where I went after I disappeared from the grid. The silence hung thick between us. Claire, I said carefully, how long have you been off the grid? 8 years, she said. Since before you and I met. That hit me harder than I expected. So our marriage, our life here. Her eyes softened. None of it was fake. I meant every part of it. But I couldn't tell you. The agency faked my death to keep me out of their reach. You were the first real thing I'd had in years. I swallowed, trying to make sense of it all. Outside, one of the agents motioned for her through the window, a signal. She nodded. I stood. You're not going anywhere without me. Jake. No, I said, firmer this time. If someone's coming after you, they're coming after us. I'm not sitting in this house pretending everything's fine. Her jaw tightened, then, unexpectedly, she smiled. A sad, proud smile. That's why I married you. A knock came at the door, this one softer, disciplined. Claire opened it to reveal the man from earlier, the one with the scar. "Ma'am," he said, "transport's ready. Command authorized civilian accompaniment." His gaze flicked to me. "You're with her, you follow every instruction." "Understood?" I nodded, though my pulse was drumming in my ears. We followed him outside. The night air smelled like ozone and burning rubber. The fake cops were gone, loaded into one of the SUVs. The neighbor's curtains twitched again, but no one dared step outside. We climbed into the back of the lead SUV. Inside, screens flickered with satellite feeds and scrolling data. Claire slipped seamlessly into the role she clearly hadn't forgotten, issuing codes, verifying transmissions, identifying security breaches like it was routine. I watched her, this woman I thought I knew, and felt awe mixed with fear. Monroe sat across from us. "Those two imposters were wired," he said. "Encrypted transmitters. Someone's watching them, or was." Claire frowned. "How recent?" "Active until we jammed them." Her eyes darkened. "Then they know I'm active." Monroe hesitated. "If that's the case, it's only a matter of time before they send a real extraction team." "Then we go dark," she said. "Full blackout. They won't find us." He looked uncertain. "Control won't like that." "Control can file a complaint," she snapped. For a moment, silence. The tires hummed against asphalt. Then Monroe asked, "Do you think it's him? The one you lost in Istanbul?" Claire's hands clenched in her lap. "If it is, then he's not losing twice." The SUV slowed as we turned onto a remote access road. The trees closed in around us, swallowing the city lights. "Where are we going?" I asked. "Safe house," Monroe said. "No digital footprint, no satellite trace." We reached a narrow cabin tucked deep in the woods, barely visible in the moonlight. The team moved fast, perimeter sweep, signal jammer setup, motion sensors placed in a 30-yard radius. Inside, Claire pulled me aside. "Jake," she said softly, "listen to me. If something happens tonight, you find Monroe. He'll get you out. Stop talking like that. I'm serious." Her eyes locked on mine. "These people don't just come to scare me. They come to finish what they started." "And who exactly are they?" She hesitated, then whispered, "A division we shut down years ago. Blacklight. They went off the books, deep state mercenaries. Now they're ghosts with guns." I opened my mouth to answer, but before I could, the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then everything went black. The team outside shouted something muffled. Monroe swore and grabbed his radio. "We lost power, thermals offline." Claire reached for her sidearm. "They're here." The windows erupted in gunfire. Glass shattered. Bullets ripped through the walls. The night lit up with flashes of red and gold. Monroe returned fire. Multiple contacts. Northeast Ridge. Claire shoved me to the floor. "Stay down." I crawled behind the kitchen island, heart pounding as wood splinters flew overhead. Through the chaos, I saw her moving like a ghost, calm, efficient, controlled every motion, trained and deadly. Then a voice echoed from outside, distorted through a loudspeaker. "Agent Ward, it's been a long time." Claire froze. I looked at her. "Who is that?" Her face went pale. "The one I couldn't kill," she whispered. The voice outside carried the weight of old sins, low, deliberate, almost amused. "Agent Ward. You always did have a flair for the dramatic." Claire's grip tightened on her pistol. "Vance," she muttered. The name hung in the dark like poison. Monroe's head snapped toward her. "Vance Cole? He's supposed to be dead." "Supposed to be," Claire said grimly. I buried the evidence myself. Another burst of gunfire cracked through the night, shredding what was left of the front windows. The tactical team shouted positions, their muzzle flashes strobing against the cabin walls. I could smell gunpowder, wood dust, fear. I crawled to Claire, my voice shaking. Who is he? She kept her eyes on the door. X Special Activities. My partner. Until he went dark. And now? Now, she said, sliding a fresh magazine into her gun, he's come to finish what I started. The gunfire paused. Then, silence. The kind that makes you realize the next sound will decide everything. Monroe checked his scanner. Thermals offline. They're using dampeners. We're blind. Claire moved to the window, glanced at the tree lean. He's not here to capture. He's here to burn the whole place down. As if on cue, something clanked outside, metal rolling on gravel. Claire's eyes widened. Grenade! The explosion ripped through the front wall, tossing us backward. My ears rang, my vision spun. Smoke filled the cabin, thick and acrid. Through the haze, I saw dark figures moving, 6, maybe 7 of them, slipping through the breach with precision, rifles raised. Monroe fired first. 2 dropped instantly. The others fanned out, using the smoke as cover. Claire pulled me behind the overturned couch. Stay with me, she hissed. I could barely hear her over the ringing in my head. Claire. She pressed her forehead to mine, just for a heartbeat. If I don't make it, tell them. Don't, I cut in. We're walking out together. Her lips twitched, that same almost smile from years ago. You always did have terrible odds. Then she rose from cover, firing in tight, perfect bursts. 2 more assailants fell. Monroe shouted something about flank positions, but before he could finish, a figure emerged through the hole in the wall, tall, armored, carrying a suppressed rifle and moving like a predator. Vance Cole. Even through the smoke, I recognized the cold confidence in his posture, the way he scanned the room like he already owned it. You should have stayed dead, Claire, he called, voice calm, almost friendly. Funny, she replied, stepping into view, gun raised. I was about to say the same thing. They circled each other through the wreckage, 2 ghosts from the same war. Monroe caught my arm. We need to move. But I couldn't take my eyes off them. You cost me everything, Vance said. The operation, the money, the freedom. Do you have any idea what the agency did to me after you sold me out? You did that yourself, she said. You started selling intel. I just pulled the trigger. Not well enough. He fired first. The bullet tore through the air, grazing her shoulder. She ducked behind a support beam, grimacing in pain. Monroe returned fire, hitting Vance's vest a solid impact, but he didn't go down. The man was wearing armor. Flashbang, someone shouted, but Claire was already moving. She lunged from cover, grabbed the grenade midair, and threw it back. The detonation blinded the intruders instead. She turned to me. Jake, basement hatch. Now. I hesitated, but her tone left no room for argument. I crawled to the corner of the cabin, found the metal ring under the rug, and pulled. The hatch creaked open to reveal a narrow tunnel. Go, she barked. I'm not leaving you. She turned, eyes blazing through the smoke. You will if you love me. Then she shoved me down the hatch and slammed it shut. I heard the battle rage above, boots, gunfire, shouted orders. The smell of burning wood filled the tunnel. I crawled forward, heart hammering, until the passage opened into a small underground bunker. A screen flickered on the far wall, live feed from the cabin above. I watched, helpless, as Claire faced Vance in the middle of the wrecked living room. They stood 10 feet apart, both wounded, both breathing hard. You don't have to do this, she said. Oh, I do, he replied, leveling his gun. Because this time, there's no backup. A small smile touched her lips. That's where you're wrong. She lifted her wrist and pressed the same button she'd used the night of the first attack. For a second, nothing happened. Then the entire feed flickered, static, light, chaos. A voice cut through the interference. Delta 7, airborne support inbound. Brace for impact. The cabin ceiling on the feet exploded in white light, a roaring wind as a drone strike vaporized half the tree line. The image shook violently, then went black. I pounded the console. Claire. Claire. Then, silence. I don't know how long I sat there in the dark. Seconds? Minutes? The air was heavy with dust and fear. Finally, the hatch creaked open. A figure dropped down, soot-covered, limping, coughing through smoke. Claire. Her face was streaked with blood and ash, but her eyes, those fierce, unbreakable eyes, met mine and softened. "He's gone," she whispered. "For good this time." I caught her as she collapsed, holding her close while the rumble of distant rotors filled the air. Monroe climbed down next, radio pressed to his ear. "Evac teams inbound. You two need med evac now." I just nodded, barely hearing him. Claire's hand found mine. "Told you we'd walk out together," she murmured. "You almost didn't," I said, my voice breaking. She smiled faintly. "You underestimate me, Jake Hastings." "Not anymore." When the evac chopper lifted us into the night sky, I looked down at what used to be our home, a smoking crater surrounded by flashing lights and broken trees. Everything we'd built was gone. Everything except us. I turned to her. "What happens now?" She stared out the window, the city lights glinting in her eyes. "Now," she said quietly, "we disappear again. But this time, we do it together." As the helicopter disappeared into the horizon, I felt the last of the fear drain away, replaced by something fierce, enduring. Because whatever ghosts came next, whatever pasts tried to hunt us down, they'd have to go through both of us.